You now tuned in to the Gumptown Podcast. I'm your boy Doug B. We ain't got nothing to talk about, but we got something to talk about. Let's go. Good people, good people, good people. Welcome back to the Gumptown Podcast, episode 125. I'm your boy Doug B. If you tuned in to this podcast, thank you for your time and your attention. I really appreciate you giving this podcast a shot. Today's guest is the founder and owner of EFJ Payments. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm sure we'll all be inspired by his story. Let's chop it up with Henry Elmore. Henry, how's it going, man?
It's going well. How are you doing today, Doug?
Glad to hear that. All is well on my end, too. First things first, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to chop it up with me. I really appreciate it.
As always, terrific Tuesday to you, man.
Yes, sir. Of course, here to talk about EFJ Payments and all the great things you have going on with the business. But before we talk business, let's get to know the man behind the brand. So you were born and raised in the Gump. What was your upbringing like in the city?
Well, I hate to tell the same story, but I grew up poor, single mom. I actually went to Fuse Elementary. That's going to tell you how old I am. I'm dating myself a little bit, and then I went to Bellingraph Middle School, and then I graduated from Sittler Lanier. I'm a poet, poets for life. I know there's no longer poets after this year. So, I'm going to continue to try to live that legacy. And then from there, basically went into the military, did my years in the military, got out and started a restaurant business. And from there, the restaurant business was really a big deal in Montgomery. It was really growing and blossoming, and Outback came to town, Outback Steakhouse. And I had the pleasure to open up that Outback there in Montgomery and went on to open up several ones after that and stayed in the restaurant business for almost 14 years, though. And that took me to 6 different cities, 4 different states. But I always end up coming back to Montgomery some way, form, or fashion until I left the restaurant business and started at Public Supermarkets as a meat cutter on a goal of being a store manager. And that's when I moved away from Montgomery, and I've been away ever since.
Okay. Good stuff, man. Appreciate you for sharing your story, and hats off to your mom for holding it down and raising you up, man. And you got a chance to graduate from Sidney Lanier. Yeah, I went to
Yes,
Lee,
sir.
man, and right now they didn't change it to Percy, Julian, and it's always going to be Lee to me, and Lanier going to always be Lanier to me, no matter what they name it to, man.
That's it. You know what to say. You know what to say. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So you go on, graduate, join the military. Thank you for your service. First things first. And so just in terms of when you served in the military, do you get a chance to travel a lot? If so, what are some memorable places you were stationed at?
Well, I didn't travel a lot, actually. That was the crazy part about it. My basic, my AIT, and my active duty station were all in the same place. I don't know how that happened. They called me the trifecta. So it was Fort Jackson, South Carolina. So that was kind of where my thing was in the military, and my MOS was actually somewhat unconventional. I actually went in with the signing bonus. The largest one at the time was with the military as a cook. So I took that in, did my military training, got all that in, and so that kind of set the foundation for when I did get out. I went into the culinary arts as far as restaurants, because I found that I truly did enjoy being in the kitchen and doing what I call loving on people with food.
Yes, sir. That's how we do it in the South. Like, we love some good food, good eating.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool, man. So with you being a culinary artist and going into that space, just a little bit off the record, but are you a harsh critic when you go to restaurants these days?
Not on the food, but I got to be honest with you, Doug. The service just really, really does me issues. Like there's no reason to give bad service at a restaurant. There's just no reason to. And even in today's society, post-COVID and whatever we have going on, service, I'm real big on that. You can take care of people, reasonable people. You can take care of reasonable people pretty easily. Anticipatory service, making sure that their drinks are filled, listening to their order when they're asking for things, and make sure the small details are taken care of aren't hard. So I'm not really, of course, every man thinks he's the best man on the grill. So I'm not going to sit there and critique, the food or the steak or whatever the case may be. But the service, I do have a huge, huge standard about where, what, when, and how that should be. But in accordance with that, I do believe in tipping well also. Mm-hmm. So if I get what I feel as though me or my family deserves on that meal, they're going to go away from that table very happy about the service that they're going to get in their tip. So I think it goes hand in hand.
You spot on with that, man. I'm the exact same way when it comes down to eating out, restaurants. The food can be terrible, but if the effort's been there, if my drink's been filled, if if all the details were there and it just wasn't seasoned right or wasn't prepared right, I have grace. But if the service bad, I probably won't go back to that location. I won't go on social media and bash them, but I probably won't go back. That's how I can move forward with my life and let them do what they do.
That I'm on board with that. I try not to be inflammatory on people.
Hmm.
Um, and I try not to do that whole gaslighting, going on social media and trying to get someone canceled and all that.
Hmm.
But I can tell you, I can control where my dollar goes,
Exactly.
and I can control where my family's dollars goes. So, that definitely, I have definitely cut out some. I'm gonna not gonna name any names on your podcast, but I've definitely cut some restaurants out of my bank account.
I like how you put that. I'm there. Hey, I'm right there with you, brother. It's a few restaurants. They'll never get another red cent from me. But hey, I wish them the best. But
They If they keep everybody else, that's up to them, right?
absolutely, yes, sir. So let's talk about EFJ payments and all the great things you got going on over there. What you got going on, products and services wise?
Oh wow. So yeah, I've been doing EFJ payments for 5.5 years now. The best decision I ever made to get out on my own and do my own thing. But I want to be very clear though, Doug. Like I'm not on here selling your listeners a dream. I'm not trying to give them a fantasy. There's no unicorns out here. You're gonna have to have some toughness behind you to be an entrepreneur. It's not easy. There's nothing about it that is gonna come, with someone just giving it to you. But the fulfillment of owning your own and being your own person and doing what you love, taking care of people, there's nothing like it. That's a universal, high that I can't tell you that ever will be matched. So I wanted to preface what I was going to say with that. But with that being said, so I have three branches of my payment company, my merchant services. Well, one, of course, is merchant services. I do payment processing, make sure people are set up with their gateways on their e-commerce, their terminals in person, make sure that they can take credit cards in any way, form, or fashion, debit cards, ACH payments, all those technical terms I'm not going to bore your listeners with. But what I do best is service them. And that's what matters the most. And in service them, I actually created two other branches from the service I saw that was needed. Because what I've learned from my mentors and from being in business beforehand, the most qualified business comes from the largest problem. If you solve a problem, you created a business. And that is something that I've truly begun to adhere myself to. And that's where my other two arms, the other two branches of my business has evolved into, because now I have a consultant division of EFJ Payments where I do business consulting. I branch out and I consult for 5 different franchises and building out their business model. We had the pleasure of opening up 7 different branches of those franchises last year. I just brought a 5th one and going to do a 6th one on board the end of this month. So I am looking to open up as EFJ business consultant. I'm looking at opening up 100 franchises across those 6 different businesses this year. And that's only because, having integrity and ability to be able to communicate to people and talk to them about what they truly want and see out of the business that they have. The other branch of that came from just being in a position where I want to be a one-stop solution for my business owners, right, Doug? So,
Hmm.
again, when I revert back to the being that solution, I had these people that, I was working with, these business owners, and, the consulting part started helping their business grow and they're increasing their revenue. So they're starting to see the fruits of their labor. And then they started branching out and building a franchise. So they really started to see their money, somewhat begin to be exponential. And I thought, these people in their, late 30s, early 40s, somewhere in their 50s, what are they doing to solidify their future, to build a generational wealth? And so that's when I introduced myself to the financial services part of my branch of my business. And I help my business owners solidify their future generational to build their wealth, to allow them to take those hard-earned profits and that revenue and those streams that they're building and build up what I feel is generational wealth, which is basically freedom and security in and of your own finances. So that's kind of what my business has grown into and evolved into. And I'm really proud of the product I put out and the integrity I have while I'm doing it. And it really matters to me how people are treated through my services with my service.
Man, that's powerful, man. I appreciate you for breaking all that down and the points you made about entrepreneurship being tough. I can only imagine. I'm still trying to figure that out. And I appreciate you for saying that, not selling the fantasy, not selling the dream, because I still work a 9 to 5 as I'm figuring it out. And I definitely encourage everybody to work a 9 to 5 until they figure it out. Because quite frankly, jumping out there, especially when you got bills, I mean, I'm not gonna do that. Jumping out there and doing something ridiculous when you don't really have a plan. So it sounds like you had a plan when you stepped out there to go into full time entrepreneurship. So what is that like just on a day-to-day basis, just being able to call your own shots? Like what's the day in life of a full-time entrepreneur from your perspective?
Yeah, so it's an ever moving chess piece. So you know, I try to stay pretty organized. And honestly, if you don't, you're doomed. So, and I don't want to give this dark and somber message, but I want to make sure everyone understands when you go from a 9 to 5 to your own thing, you don't have a schedule, you make your schedule. And that's imperative that you make your schedule. So what I do just as if I was going to a job, Doug. I make my schedule every Sunday afternoon. I look at what I have planned. I look at my calendar. I write down my goals. I write down my expectations of the week. I plot them out day by day, and I leave my Thursday and my Friday open for what my Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are going to create and produce for me. And what I do by doing that is allow my business and myself to grow exponentially across the board. It's almost in perpetuity. So by that, I mean, to give you an example, generally I wake up, between 5 and 7 every day. That's just thing, just from working. That's what I'm doing. So I try to, and I don't want to push any message onto your listeners, but I'm just answering your question honestly. I try to spend my time with my Lord,
Right.
with my God, my prayers. I do my own peace of mind to let him know how much I appreciate him. My faith is real, and I thank him for everything he's provided for myself and for my family. That means the most to me. He needs to understand that. And I need to make sure he's emulated in that fashion. Once I'm done with that, I do a little me time as far as just get my thoughts together, whatever little pep talk, work through, I'm 50 years old, brother. So at this point, I might have to work through a back pain or a knee pain or something,
Right.
Then generally speaking, 30 minutes before I'm on any call or any Zoom or any conferencing or looking up any proposals or whatever it is I have set for, my 7 o'clock kickoff, which is usually my time for my day. I'm spending quality time. I have 2 dogs that I care for. They're my little fur babies. So I spend time with them, make sure they get out, eat all that stuff, that nature. And then I roll into 7 o'clock. Usually I run my day 7 to 12, just like I would a regular day. Now, here's where the difference comes. My 7 to 12 on a Monday may end up being 7 to 3 because I just kept rolling. Things just kept snowballing, right? I kept getting calls. I may have gotten a different proposition from someone. I may have gotten an email that I need to address with some technical issues for a client. I may have gotten a new client and got a referral, so I need to put an application in. It's an ebb and flow. You got to have some flexibility there, but you also have to take some time for yourself. I will tell anyone that is becoming an entrepreneur, and I'm telling you this because I know it to be true, but the people that know me know I'm being somewhat hypocritical right now because I don't always do a good job of it. I believe in being very transparent, but I do know it to be true. You got to take time for yourself, Doug. You got to replenish. You got to drink your water. You got to eat something, snack, do whatever you need to do to keep those fuel cells, charged. So, lunch is anywhere from 12 to 3, depending on what I got going on. And then, I'm back at it, doing what I do, doing it how I do it, meetings, Zoom calls, following up proposals, sending invoices out, setting up agreements, whatever it is I'm doing at that moment. And then right around 4 or 5 o'clock, I start my post game. That's when I'm trying to figure out what do I need to do to get this day successfully wrapped up, because I don't let a day stop until I handle every issue that can be contained in that day. Now, I made that decision when I started, Doug. And when I started, it sounded like a great idea, right? Like, no problem doing that, right? So initially it didn't because I didn't have a whole lot going on. But there's some days since I've made that my mantra, that's my thing, that I'm not stopped till 11 or 12 o'clock at night because I had that many things that snowballed. Not always the best formula, but it has never failed me because I don't want residue going into my next day. That's clutter. That's things I'm not allowed to continue to move forward successfully the next day because I haven't done what I was expected of me that end of day. And then that's, I rinse and repeat, do the same thing the next day. I and this is going to sound robotic, and I don't mean it to, but I even schedule if I got to take my kids to doctor's appointments. If my daughter just had a birthday on yesterday, I blocked out 5 to 9 o'clock for her birthday. Because I have to make sure that my personal time is guarded also. Now at 9 o'clock, did I take some phone calls and do some emails? I did. When did my workday stop? 11:45 last night. It is what it is. But I know from 5 to 9, my daughter knew I was fully immersed in her and her birthday, and that's what matters. It has to have value there. So I hope that answered your question. Probably sound a little boring, but that's kind of how I get down with it.
No, sir, it wasn't boring at all. And it was a day in your life as an entrepreneur. And like, I definitely appreciate you for breaking all that down and just going through the different parts of it. And it's all practical. It doesn't sound like a bunch of fluff that you hear on social media. Hey, I wake up at 4 in the morning, I jump in the cold bath, and then
Oh
I,
no,
I mean, it's like what you're talking about, it's practical and realistic. So
it's real life.
it's like, yeah, real life.
Man,
And
those shock jock guys, man. I'm not knocking anybody hustle.
me neither, me neither.
It is what it is on that. If
Yeah,
that's what they do, so be it. But I'm never gonna disrespect your show by getting on here and telling somebody something that I don't literally do. That
right.
you can't walk in my house at 6 o'clock in the morning and see me on my knees thanking my heavenly Father for what He did. If you if I can't be true to that, I don't need to be new to that.
Right.
There's not something I need to be professing to your people, because you have listeners that are gonna be like, you know what? I think I want to start my own business. I'm gonna start waking up at 4 o'clock and jumping in the ice. No,
Right, right, right.
do things that are achievable. Reach your
Exa-
goals. You know.
Exactly, exactly. And like that's exactly what you did a great job of, just breaking down your day, and everything is practical. Everything makes sense. And just also the part where you talked about making those pivots, like your daughter birthday or doctor's appointments, you carving out that time to make time for your loved ones. Because one thing we felt, well, one thing that's easy to get lost in the sauce, and I can imagine, especially working for yourself, you get caught up in this whole thing of chasing the bag. But man, family, with God, family, those are the top two, and everything else to fall in line from there, man. Because if you have all the money in the world and your faith ain't right, your family ain't right, what do you really have? You know?
Correct. Correct. Yep.
So,
Yep. So what I call that's my why.
hmm
And I heard that I went to a business conference about 3 years or so ago, and I heard someone say that, and I'd heard it before, and it kind of just sounded like fluff, like we said earlier.
right.
But he broke it down, and he said your why, and this was very poignant to me, so I'm going to share it with you. When he said that your why is the reason that you will get up no matter what, that's when it hit me. If your why will have you get up, I'll give you an example. I've had COVID 3 times now. I'm sorry, and my why is the reason why no later than day 2 of COVID, I was up sending emails.
Mm,
I was up taking calls. Didn't do any Zooms the first 2 or 3 days because I looked like I was literally about to croak.
mm,
But I still engaged. And that was because of my why. I know that when you hit this light switch, if I don't take care of my business every month, that light switch may not come on.
mm.
You know? So you got to make sure that why is in place and it's the right why. Like you said, your God, your children, your family, your integrity, your mantra, whatever it is you believe in, your why has to be solid for you to get up every day and do it no matter what.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And even that part where you talked about not taking any clutter from today into tomorrow, like I definitely can understand that. And it's just that problem solving. You got to solve all the problems that are out in front of you today. So when tomorrow come around, it's a brand new day. I'm definitely guilty of that. Even working in the 9 to 5 space, like it's time to log off at 4 o'clock because I work from home, but I end up staying on at 6 o'clock because I don't want to wake up in the morning and this be undone, like job's not finished. So I can understand your mindset on that too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can't leave it just out there flailing in the universe. You got to do something with it.
Right, absolutely. So that's great, man, that you've been able to make this transition into full-time entrepreneurship and been able to maintain that balance, faith, your family, and extracurricular activities. That's good stuff. Like that's what I want people to hear. Like everything you just said is what I want the audience to hear. I don't want them to hear, what I spoke on earlier in terms of some unrealistic stuff that's going to cause them to crash and burn. So that's great that you just living
Right.
life, like living life, living real life, practical life. That's great stuff, man. So just in terms of hearing you talk about how you started with one sector of business and just asking yourself the right questions, what problems can I solve? I just think that's great, man. Like you just have a thing for people, and just based on your story, it goes back to your time in the military, serving our country, and being in that culinary art space. So what transferable skills from those areas of your life do you apply now?
I think it's big to be able to pivot. So, military, they teach you greatly to be able to overcome and adapt. You can't get lost in the moment. And that's a big thing being an entrepreneur, Doug. Like you I can't tell you how many times I've lost $1 million deals. Sick to the stomach. I mean, there was a deal I had in place probably 2.5 years ago, and I would have literally probably been able to retire, and I lost it in the last minute. The CFO came in and just nixed the whole deal, right? It was for a franchise. I was going to be processing for a franchise. They have over 1,800 locations. I had gotten across all the hurdles, and literally the guy came in and just chopped me off at the legs. And I was like, oh my God. And I could have sulked over that for shucks. I could have taken months and tried to get over that. But guess what? I had another big call the next day. I could sit there and bellyache. I had to figure it out, count my losses, think of every loss as a lesson, and keep it moving. That's one thing that the military taught me that was very, very impactful on my future moving forward. As far as, being the culinary arts and cooking, taking something and making it a nothing. You can go into a kitchen, Doug, and I don't know if you like to cook or not, but if you do, you know what I'm talking about. You can go into a kitchen and you can have 3 or 4 things to come out with a 4 course meal.
Right.
you know, just because you piece together and you make it right. And, making something into nothing is essential for an entrepreneur, because you have to see how to take a very small or minute opportunity, make it into something big, either for yourself or one of your clients. And that's part of that problem solving that I believe in that helps me to run my consultant group that I have in place. So those would be the two things I would say were most impactful on me moving forward. The two things that I brought from those two different fields of my life, and those two different types of attitudes and mindsets that have helped me to be successful, moving forward. You can't sit in your own, and you
Right.
can't sit and not try to figure it out. You got to overcome and adapt, and you got to make bad things into positive moments.
Yes, sir. And it's so powerful when we're going through our different chapters in life. It don't make sense in the moment while we're going through it, but down the line, it all makes sense. So everything you went through in the military and working in the culinary art space, you may have known what they were teaching you at that time, but hindsight is always 2020. You like, dang, I get it
Mhm.
now. Everything I'm doing now, I did that back then, but I didn't know I was doing that back then, but it all makes sense
Exactly.
now.
Well, it becomes wisdom at that point.
Hmm.
You know, when it goes from practical to knowledge, that's wisdom. It has relevance at that juncture. It matters more because you can put it into play. When I often put it into, I play sports. So, when you ran your plays, you practice, on the field, then you're like, man, why we keep running the same play, the same play, the same play? And then you get on the field and the play executes perfectly. That's why, son. So you could do this muscle memory and do this movement without even thinking about it, and catch this team off guard, and now y'all just scored. So that's it's kind of that thing. Even though that's a instant gratification because you see it that same week. I'm talking what the military for me was 35 years ago. So I'm talking 35 years ago,
Hmm.
or 30 years ago, brother. But still, that it matters that I was able to, turn that into relevant knowledge, which became wisdom for me, and I can share with others at this point.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Good stuff. So whenever I have entrepreneurs on the platform like yourself, Henry, I like to talk about three things: the aha moment, action, and audacity. Take us back to your aha moment when you first had the idea to create EFG payments.
So when I guess my aha for EFJ was when I was leaving Publix, and I knew I had to do something, even though I was retiring well from my investments, I had to do something. And my aha moment came when I saw how successful I could be from the first deal I made as a merchant service provider. I was blessed with my first opportunity, and this is gonna sound very minor, but for me, it was like, wow, my first deal that I signed on with my applications and everything literally brought in residually, which is every month, brought in over $2,500 a month for me. And that was just, no, that was the first thing I put on paper. And for me, that was like, wow, this is only one and I can do this. What if I had 10 of these, 20, 30, 40, and that was aha for me. That was where I was like, okay, yeah, I got it. I can do this. And so that's what that meant for me. I guess I saw the money. Jerry Maguire said, show me the money. They showed me the money. And I saw where I could actually take care of my family comfortably from the job that or the career I just started with my business. I remember the Audacity. What was the second one?
Oh, so in terms of the second portion is, so after you had your initial aha moment, how long did it take you to come up with a name, a logo, and actually get started in business?
So, it's funny you asked that because literally when I got that first account, I didn't even have any of that. It was my doctor that I was already using. They were the first one to let me have their business. Let me have their business because of who I was. They knew me. So my kids actually named the business. EFJ stands for LM Jam. So that's what the EFJ is for. And then they helped me figure out the logo, the credit card with the EFJ pays through it. And my seal or my business crest is a lion, because of the strength and power of what that animal is. So they helped me do all that. I give all the praise to them for that. They came up with the color scheme, black and gold, and all that stuff. So that's how that happened. And I actually did all that. And let me make this crystal clear. I did it backward. So I should have had my business and entity and all that in place before I went to go procure business. But I was literally just sitting there talking to them about what I was about to do. They said, sure. What do we need to do? We'll sign up with you. And I said, right now? Yeah, right. And so this is no lie. I had to go through the little tutorial thing that I had gotten on how I set up my dashboard while I was sitting in the office getting ready to do their application. And I'm all about faking it till you make it, right? So I'm sitting there, I'm just like, well, I have to set up the application. I'm just making up whatever I need to make up so they don't wonder why it's taking me so long, right? And so I'm literally walking through the application like I'm trying to be thorough. Well, it's the first time I've seen an application. First time. Just putting information in, then I'm just hitting. And luckily, the application system is so slow. It won't let you go any further till you fill out all the information properly, right? Which was a key for me because I had never filled it out. And so I hit submit. Like 3 hours later, they were approved. I got their system in place in like 3 days. All this was near the end of the month. So they started a whole month out. I got a whole month of their processing. And here I was 30 days later and, got a $2,500 check. I was like, oh, we can do this. Okay. So that's kind of how the business came about. That's how all that worked out. A lot of people call it for fortune or fortuitous. I just say it was fated to be because God had a destiny in place, and He has walked each journey with me each step. So I'd have to believe that this is what He has me to do and has me wanting to do. Since then, I have helped over 45 different processing people or companies or agents open up almost 100 different accounts, and ask nothing of them for it. Just wanted them to be better and do better. And that I believe that kind of stuff pays off.
And it's so powerful what you just talking about, Henry, just in terms of doing it backwards. I wouldn't say that. I would say everything fell in line in divine order. And it goes to just the power of relationships and your doctors knowing your character. They know what you stand for. And for you to have the courage to even promote what you were thinking about doing. And they say, you know what? Yeah, we're on board. That's the power of promoting what you're doing, because honestly, and I have to catch myself sometimes, like in terms of don't hide who you are. Don't hide who you are, what you're working on,
Right.
because you don't know the person that you're hiding from. They may have a problem that what you have will solve. And the fact that you spoke up
Yes, sir.
and they understand your character, man, it was just divine order. So you get that first deal, 2,500 residually, which isn't some chump change. That's great money that because it's residual, you only have to do the work for it one time and it's gonna come every
One
month.
time.
That's powerful.
That's it. 4 years later. 4 years later. Now, don't get me wrong. Every month, I send out an email checking on them, making sure that I have a reminder set up on the anniversary of their coming on board, which is the third of each month. I send a note to their office manager asking if they need anything, see if they need anything. And of course, when I go in, I make sure everybody's good. When I see a new face, I introduce myself as their processor, all those things. But as far as doing work, Doug, I did that 3 years ago.
I mean, that's the
I'm good.
That's the great thing about it. And even with the monthly check-ins and maintenance, that's just customer service. That's just letting them know
Yes, sir.
that they were more than just a transaction, that you actually still care about them. You still want to make sure they get them what they want. Because one thing about it, and I'm pretty sure, because I heard you mention earlier that you went to a business conference, and you heard the guy talking about the why. And I'm pretty sure,
Mhm.
and I'm pretty sure you've heard this being an entrepreneur. When you help enough people get what they want, you will get what you want. It's just
Yes,
how it
sir,
works,
you will.
man.
Full speed ahead on that. I firmly believe that, Doug.
Yes,
Firmly.
sir. Absolutely. So that last portion, it's one thing to have an idea. It's another thing to put action behind it, as you did. It's a whole nother thing to put it out to the world to be praised or criticized. That takes audacity, in my opinion. Who or what gave
Hmm.
you that courage, that audacity to put EFJ out to the world to be praised or criticized?
I don't know. So I have a partnership that I work with a group. Deposit is basically my ISO, which they run all the financial back end for me. The owners of that group, am I can I say their names? Is that okay? Or
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's cool. Go for it.
oh yeah, so Dave and Patricia Carlin. So something about me, I've never been short on confidence, but I've always been humbled. And I know that sounds like some type of oddity of sequence of events, but if I can elaborate on that. So I've never doubted myself, but I've never been that guy that gonna go out and tell the world how amazing I am. I just know that when the time hits, when the moment comes, I'm gonna step up and do it and get it done properly. And I'm gonna be really good at it. Right. So they challenged me to stop stepping back and letting other people just jump in the front and to actually step out and let people know what I do because I have something to offer. And when they had that conversation with me, it was like that epiphany, like, let's do that. So I literally came back from that conference and I started my 45-day challenge on social media. And I posted for 45 days straight, Instagram, Facebook, and all those different things. And I'd have to say that was my audacity because I'm not a social media guy. I'm just not that person. I just don't. Heck, until to be honest with you, Doug, until I started doing my business or whatever, I barely knew how to use my iPhone. My kids had to show me how to use my phone and what all I had to do with it. So yeah, that was my audacity. I did that 45-day challenge on social media, and I can tell you, people can get nasty on social media. They
Right.
can get. I mean, I'm sure you're a social media person.
Right.
They can get pretty inflammatory. And about things that aren't really what you're talking about. I have people. So I have keloids. I don't know. Do you know what keloids are?
Yes, sir.
So I have keloids. So of course, going on social media, people would see I was going live and stuff. So people would see my keloids, and the amount of people that would like insult me about my keloids without even understanding what or how they are. I got them when I was in the military from shaving. So it's not like I was out there on drugs or something. And if you are, that's fine. But it's not like I was doing something to harm myself.
Right.
I was serving the country, and it's just a physical condition that is prevalent in African American males. So the point of the matter is this, that it just happened. Why I'm on here talking about how you can achieve anything you put your mind to, and I have people talking about how my face looks. So those things, that's when I felt like I really had the audacity because I actually overcame that, and I didn't stop posting. That was like day 3, Doug.
Right.
It wasn't even like I've been 15, 20 days in. That was like day 3. But I can tell you this because I don't want to leave your podcast with people thinking that the world still sucks like the way they make us want to think it does. So I will tell you, for every one negative comment, I had at least 10 people either berate them for being negative or give me something positive that they got from what I said. That mattered. That was powerful for me. That made an impact that I knew that, yeah, there's some negative people out there and they're going to say some negative things. But that someone somewhere in a multitude of people saw, heard, and appreciated what I was giving them to the point where they felt the need to comment on it. And that was a big deal for me.
Right. Absolutely, and that's powerful, and like that's great that you kept going just in spite of nasty comments. And yeah, that's the wild, wild west, man. The internet is a definitely an interesting place, and it's just one of those things. Even before I started my podcast, I came in it just knowing that hey, at some point in time, someone's not going to like what I have to offer, and guess what? That's okay. I'm not going to stop doing it
Right,
because somebody said, "Oh, this podcast trash," or you don't this guy's country. Because here's the thing, and and I'm not, and I'm just gonna say it. 10 times out of 10, the people that got something to say, they've never constructed anything. How can you offer me constructive criticism when you're not even constructed? You haven't constructed
right,
anything. You're not
right,
putting no. You don't have the courage to turn your camera on or your microphone on and talk because you just don't have the courage. So it's easy to throw tomatoes at somebody like Henry, who's out here giving some game, telling you you can do anything you put your mind to,
right.
but they rather be focused on whatever they're focused on. I mean, yeah, man. Some people out here just it's silly, man, and they just lost. And
Just they're just negative for no reason.
yeah, I mean, it's like I didn't. Whatever happened to you, I didn't do it to you. Why you mad at me? That's how I feel.
Right, right. You
I didn't
know,
cut you off in traffic. I didn't spill
and
coffee on you this morning.
it, so Doug, I'll tell you what, and I would challenge any of your listeners to do this.
Hmm.
Calculate the energy it takes to be negative and measure that and counterintuitively look at that against the energy it takes for you to be positive. You know, that it's no even it's so easy to smile. You have to work muscles to frown. You know, it's so easy to think positive something. You have to think clearly negative to be negative. You know, and I would tell anybody, you got to work at negative. Positive comes easy.
Right. Absolutely. No, that's spot on. What you just said is spot on. So even just going back to that couple that gave you the audacity that told you to come out of hiding and step out in the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to them. And it just goes back to the power of a village. We all need a village when we're kids, even when we're adults. And that village are those people that's going to steer us on the right track. They're going to praise us when we're doing right. They're going to constructively criticize us when we're doing wrong. So shout out to your mentors for
Yes.
pushing you out to the forefront because you needed it. That's good stuff.
Yes, I did. And to be honest with you, if they had done that, I'm be honest with you, Doug, I'll probably still be doing the same thing. You
Right.
know, and if they hadn't done, if they hadn't told me that or challenged me, they didn't tell me that, they challenged me,
Right.
and they knew that I'm gonna take a challenge. I'm a competitive person. So when they challenged me, they knew that was gonna get the fire up under my tail. So if I hadn't had that challenge, I've had one. So I have one on the books for tomorrow. If I hadn't gotten out there and gotten into social media, what I have, I wouldn't have had tomorrow. Fingers crossed, prayers up to God. Be prepared to take my fourth multi-million-dollar deal in 3 months.
Nice.
Be prepared to take that tomorrow if I hadn't done what I did with social media, because that put me out there for people to start talking about who I was and what I was doing and sharing with others.
Exactly. And it's just powerful that just like you did in the military, you pivoted into this space, the social media space. Cause I'll be transparent with you. That's how I found you. I was just on Facebook looking around, just being intentional about finding more people connected with the city to speak with. And I saw EFJ. I said, that's like, so I clicked on it, looked at it, merchant services. I said, okay, hey, I'm reaching out. I didn't, I didn't ask myself, is he going to respond? I just reached out, man, because you're marketing yourself. You put yourself out there. You're doing social media. You're doing the things that you wouldn't have been doing if you weren't challenged. So it's just great, man. Just have that village around people that's gonna hold you accountable and continue to rock and roll with what you got going on, man. So just in terms of, I know you mentioned it earlier, but the internet got a little fuzzy. What does EFJ stand for again?
Elmore Fam Jam.
Elmore Fam Jam. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
EFJ.
Okay, awesome, powerful stuff, man. So the next portion I typically talk about is vision, just short-term and long-term goals, but you touched on that earlier just in terms of expanding the business. Anything else you got coming down the pipeline like in January 2024, February, what, the first quarter 2024, any events you want to promote?
So, short term. So, well, some of the things I have going on because of NDAs, I can't really talk about the
Okay.
exact nature. But I will tell you this: short term, I plan on in the next 2 quarters, which is quarter 1 and quarter 2. I plan on actually multiplying my processing by 2. So And to give you an idea what that means, in the last 4 years, if I've processed multi-millions of dollars, I'm going to multiply that times 2 in these 4 to 6 months. That is a huge feat for me. So I'm going to take all the work I've done in 4 years and make it better in 4 to 6 months times 2. So, and that's one of the deals I have on the table, as we were talking about a few seconds ago. So that's my short term. And long term, I'm going to build my portfolio 2024 into the first quarter of 2025 to have out 7 different revenue streams, with 5 of them being recurring. And those are going to be to include real estate and investment. So it's time for that umbrella to open up, continue to build on the trust that I have in place, and to make where me and my family, and I'm talking long term, I'm talking generation, are good to go for many, 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 many generations. And lastly is I want to show, I have 5 children and, 4 grandchildren. And I want them, any and all of my children, to understand, first of all, what it took for me to get our success where it is. And I need for one of them to get prepared to take this on and not let it peril in my peril, because that's where most generational wealth goes to pass away. After the person who built it, 2 generations later, it's squandered away. And I need for this name to mean something 55, 60 years from now, because of the work I'm putting in now. So that's my goal, my short and long-term goal. I'm 50 years old. I plan on retiring comfortably at 55. And that should allow me the opportunity to, and don't get me wrong, when I say retire, Doug, I'm going to be very honest and transparent with you. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop working. That just means I'm going to work when I feel like it. And freedom is retirement. So that means I'm going to only be consulting at that point. Someone's going to be running my business. They're going to call me when they need me, because I'm going to be on someone's beach or in someone's cabin, or at my beach house or at my cabin, or my ranch, because I'm going to buy a ranch. And they're going to call me and ask me what should they do about this, or how should they do this about that. And that's going to be my retirement. I can't imagine myself ever being completely disconnected, because I'm not that guy. But day-to-day operations will no longer be my thing at 55 years old. So that's my long interim and my short, my interim and my long-term goals.
Sir, those are all powerful and great short-term and long-term goals. And I have no doubt you'll make them all come to fruition.
I'm going to work my darndest to. I guarantee you.
Yes, sir.
They say if you shoot for the moon, you may hit the stars. So I'm just hoping I at least hit a few stars.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And those goals that you set are audacious, and they're gonna stretch you in ways you
Yes,
never
sir.
imagined. But that's what it takes. Like, you have to aim for. I mean, listen, Henry. You and I both know this, man. We're here for a good time, not a long time. So we might as well make it a good time while we're here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We
Yes,
got to
sir.
live that life, live us.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up the podcast, I want to ask $1 million question, Henry. I started this podcast to highlight the greatness connected to the city, whether you were born here or lived here, or college, military, or work. You've been a hometown hero. What makes you the most proud to say you're from Montgomery, Alabama?
That's a good question. Even though I haven't lived there for almost 17 years now, when I come back to Montgomery, for the most part, the people are still hospitable, appreciative, and humble. There's something about that city, no matter what's going on with crime rate and all that crazy negative stuff you hear. It's something about that city that, again, I've lived in for a long amount of times in 6 different cities, 4 different states. There's something about that city. When I come home to it, it feels like home no matter when I come. Things change. Businesses have gone out of business and open back up. It's something else and all that. But there's something about Montgomery that just feels like home if you live there for any amount of time. I hope that was a decent enough answer, but that's my truth. That's my fact.
Yes, sir. And that's powerful. No, that's a great answer. That's great. I definitely won't challenge it. Like, that's great. Like, no matter when you come back home, it always feels like home. Yeah, that's powerful stuff. So let's back up a little bit. So I know you was talking about getting a chance to live in different cities and states and move around. So what's the most memorable city you've lived in?
So this is hard for me to say because I'm an Alabama fan. So
Okay.
you please don't disown me when I say
I
this.
won't, man. I won't.
If you know, you know, right? Knoxville, Tennessee.
Mm.
When I tell you, Doug, have you ever been to Tennessee as far as traveling?
I've been to Chattanooga and Yeah, Chattanooga and Memphis.
Go when the next time you get a chance, go up to Knoxville, drive through Knoxville, and go to Pigeon Forge and Sevierville and Gatlinburg,
Mm.
and just go to those mountains. I'm a guy as I get older, Doug. I'm all about some peace, right? I'm all
Mhm.
about. I don't like drama. I ain't trying to have no issues. I don't want no problems. I ain't looking for anybody's smoke.
Right.
When I tell you that that's the most peaceful country I've ever driven through, lived in, been a part of, it is extraordinary there. The air is clean, the views are extraordinary. Looking at a cabin out across the bow of the cabin and waking up at 6 in the morning, seeing the sunrise on one of those cabins in those mountains, over a mountain. Oh man, breathtaking. So
Mm.
yeah, if I had to tell you, in other words, I can go ahead and tell you, I'm going to have my beach house in Destin.
Mhm.
I'm going to have my cabin in Pigeon Forge or Sevierville, and I'm going to have my ranch somewhere in Wyoming or Oklahoma. And I can tell you that have you ever been to Oklahoma or Wyoming?
No, sir. I have not been to Wyoming. The only knowledge I have of
Uh,
Wyoming is of Kanye was talking about his when he had his residence out there in the middle of nowhere.
when I tell you he was right, you so I'm a very somewhat private person, and I
Hmm.
know that's somewhat contradictory with all I do because I work with people every day. But as far as my personal life, I like my personal life to be my personal life.
Right.
Like if you look on my social media, you're not gonna see me out there partying and all that stuff. You're gonna see businesses that I promote and people that I promote, in my business. So I will tell you when you looking at 100 acres of land and having a mountain on your land, your steer and your cows and your horses and all that stuff. I'm telling you, that's peace.
Hmm.
That's peace. Putting your name on a piece of land and that's where you're at and that's where you live. I get gratification at its highest level. So yeah, that's what I have. Beach house in Destin by the water. Cabin up there in the mountains at Pigeon Forge or Sevierville, and then a ranch out there in Wyoming or Oklahoma. Of course, they're real lenient on taxes there, so I won't have to be paying a whole lot of money on there.
That's what I'm talking about. A man with a vision, already visualizing what it will be. It's already
Yes, sir.
yours. You got to keep working towards it. It's already yours.
Amen. I claim it every morning. I manifest it too. I mean, he's gonna give me what I asked for.
Every time, no doubt. So how can people connect with you, Henry? What are your social media handles and website?
So on Facebook, it's just Henry Elmore, and it's under EFJ Payments as a window. Henry.Elmore52 on Instagram. My website is www.efjpayments.cc, and that's going to give you opportunity to get my telephone number. You can fill out a form. It's an intake form. It's free. I call you once you fill the form out, and then I do a free consultation no matter what it is you're looking for, whether you're looking to grow your business, whether you're looking for merchant services, if you're looking for anything financial end, as I said, I can take care of that. And I'm actually partnering with another business group to open up a business solutions package that will probably be rolling out in the summer, where we'll literally be able to do everything for a business from A to Z. From your website to your social media marketing to your payment processing, everything that an entrepreneur would need, they can start with our services and have everything they have in one package. So, yeah, I look forward to the growth and the expansion. Every time I do something, my business grows. So I know that not only am I going to grow for this, but I really hope and I pray that your business and your podcast goes viral. Not necessarily for me. I don't want to be the next Cat Williams, but um, I ain't trying to be that guy. But I can tell you, I wish you much success, much joy, many blessings. I will add to my prayers of prosperity that I give to each and every business owner I deal with and work with on a daily basis. And I hope you the best, and I know you're going to be successful at what it is and how you're doing it.
Yes, sir. I appreciate those words, and I wish you much success, peace, and prosperity in your business, and keep rocking and rolling. And just want to thank you again for giving me a few minutes of your time to converse. I really appreciate you, Henry.
I appreciate you also. Look forward to talking to you soon. If you ever need anything, reach out, and I'll continue to promote your product across my brand.
Yes, sir. Good people, that concludes another dope episode of the Gumtown Podcast. In the meantime, in between time, y'all know what to do. Be blessed, be safe, but most importantly, have the audacity to be you. Gone. Thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate your time and your attention. Until next time.